Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of an over-the-board game that I played. It was played about 2 years ago in a tournament called the California State and Class Championship. So the idea was there was multiple sections. The open section was the California State Championship, which in 2011 was won by Sam Shankland. And then there were class sections below that: expert, class A, class B, etc. I was playing in the class A section, which is for players rated between 1800 and 2000. And this was my fourth round game, so I had had 3 rounds previously, and I had a really great start to this tournament. I won all 3 games, so I was on a perfect 3 out of 3 score at this point. So I open up with d4. My opponent plays knight f6. I play c4. He plays e6. And I think he's going into the Nimzo Indian at this point. And I play knight c3, which allows it. But he fooled me by not playing the Nimzo move, bishop b4, but playing d5 instead. So now we're in a queen's gambit declined. And normal moves here are knight f3, bishop g5, or c takes d5. I think I'm going to try c takes d5 sometimes. That was sometime. I saw that recommended by Chess Explained in one of his videos. But I play this move e3 typically. And the idea is just to avoid some complicated lines where black takes on c5. And I mean, there's lines are nothing to be afraid of really, but sometimes you need to know what you're doing. Sometimes they're kind of sharp. So so this e3 is just a way of avoiding that. If he takes, I can take back with the bishop. So my opponent continued with c6, and now we've transposed into a semi-slav. So I continue with the normal moves, knight f3, and my opponent plays bishop e7. A little unusual to play that early. Usually the knight move comes first, but it's not bad necessarily. I go bishop d3, he goes knight bd7, we castle, and you can see we're still following fairly normal lines. And I was a little bit surprised to see b3 here, which I played. It was one of the preferred moves. Anyway, I like this move, b3. It opens up a square for the bishop on b2. And also, this bishop here, if I want to maintain it on d3, I now have the option of taking back. If he takes on c4, I can take back with the pawn and not have to move this bishop. So b3 serves kind of a dual purpose. Now it says here black's normal response is b6, and I guess black can set up a kind of a complementary setup with his bishop there, his pawn there, and I can put my bishop there. And it would be a pretty even game. My opponent played a6, so we're out of book after that. And we'll just look at the notation tab. So after a6, I continue with queen c2, just my normal development. The queen can also go to e2, but here on c2, it's first of all nice that the knight is not on c6, so it can't come to b4 and harass these pieces. So they can stay there for a while, and I line up for a battery against the h6 pawn, h7 pawn. So my opponent plays h6. I guess this gives him freedom to move his knight somewhere, maybe out here, and not have to worry about losing that pawn. And I play e4 right away, the push in the center to try and open things up. It's hard to say if this is really justified, but I think it's okay in this position. He took, I took, he takes, I take, plays knight f6, and I have to retreat the bishop because I don't want the bishop traded off. So he does get a tempo. Black gets a tempo in this line. But I have, maybe a slight advantage, a little more space in the center, and easy development for my pieces. His light squared bishop is still locked in behind his pawn chain. So I think I maintained a slight advantage for white through here. So he continues. You see I do bishop d3, he goes bishop d6. So bishop is no longer needed on this diagonal now that I can't place the bishop here on g4. It's guarded by that pawn. So he doesn't have to worry about this pin. He can relocate that bishop to a more active square. I go bishop b2, activating that bishop. And he goes bishop b8, a very interesting idea. The bishop is still good on this diagonal, and he's also opened up a line for his queen to attack down the center. So, or potentially maybe a queen could move to the side and a rook could come over to that square. So an interesting idea. The downside is it seems to lock away this rook in the corner for a bit. So I play rook a d1, Getting my pieces out, he plays b5. I'm not worried about this exchange here. I would still just take back with the pawn. So I continue, and I go knight e5, putting pressure on this undefended c6 pawn. And he defends it with his bishop. And now I play a move which is a bit controversial, maybe. I showed this game to some masters, local masters, and they thought it was maybe a bit of a mistake. But I played this move c5. And what it's doing is it's clamping down on this c6 square and keeping this bishop locked away. So it'll have to reposition to try and get back in the game. So I thought that was a pretty good clamp. But the downside is that Black gets to activate his knight with the move knight d5, which my opponent played. And that's a good square for the knight. It's central, and it controls a lot of dark squares around here. So I didn't want the knight coming into b4, and so I play a3 to stop that. And my opponent played this interesting move, knight f4, harassing the bishop from the other side. But the knight is not doing a whole lot on that square, and after I go bishop to e4, attacking, now there's two pieces attacking the pawn on c6, my opponent didn't find anything better than to return the knight back to d5. So that knight f4 venture may have been a bit of a waste of time. Anyway, knight d5, I play bishop to c1. Now the bishop on this diagonal was just hitting against this blockaded pawn. It wasn't really going anywhere. So I'm repositioning to a better diagonal. And you may think because of the moves bishop b2 and then back to c1, I've wasted time. But in the meantime, I've gotten my rook from a1 to d1. So it has served a useful purpose there. Okay. Let's see, we're move 20, here we go, bishop c1. He plays a5, expanding on the queen side, and I play rook d3, just trying to continue with a kingside attack. If I can get my rook to g3, for example, I can threaten to take the pawn on h6. So my opponent doesn't like this, tries to shut down the attack immediately with f5, which does close off this diagonal where I've located a lot of my pieces. And I have to decide what to do with this bishop. I could retreat, but I wasn't sure if it was all that useful on f3 or if it would find another good use. And this is a mighty good knight on d5, so I decided just to exchange my bishop off for that knight. Now he took back with the queen. Maybe he could have taken with the pawn here, but that's what he played. And I go rook e1, getting my last piece into the game. Now he plays rook f6, which is a good move. It defends along the third rank this e6 pawn, which might become weak at some point if the queen got chased away, and also h6 to protect against ideas like bishop h6. So rook f6, I play queen d1. My idea is just to bring my queen out and join in the attack. Also, generally getting my queen onto a better diagonal since this one was shut down. He plays bishop to c7, so now his rook is free to come and join in the party on the king side. And I play queen h5. And my opponent follows up with a very logical move, rook a to f8. But in fact, this move is somewhat of a mistake, and now white here has a very strong attack. So let's pause here, and this is your first moment of a quiz here. I'll quiz you on the second move too. But what is the first move of the attack? I think this is a pretty straightforward move. It's not a deep one. But if you want some time to think about it, pause the video, and I'm about to give the move away now. So the first move is knight to g6. So just getting this knight into position here in this square, which is undefended. Well, it's defended by the queen and attacked by the rook, but it's unprotected by any pawn. And it hits his knight, and at the same time, it threatens knight to e7, which would fork the queen and the king. So that really has to be dealt with, and my opponent plays rook to f7, rook 8 to f7. Logical move. Okay, now here's the second quiz. How do you continue the attack? You might pause the video and think about it. I'm going to talk for a little bit and give a few clues. Let's see. This move was not particularly hard to see. The only thing that was hard was trying to calculate it out ahead of time and make sure that it was safe to play in all the possible variations, all the different defenses that black might try. Okay, after that, I'm going to give away the answer, so if you want to think about it some more, pause the video. Okay, the answer was bishop takes h6, Greek gift sacrifice. So my opponent takes back, and I take with my queen, which threatens an immediate checkmate right there. So he has to do something about that, and the most logical move, actually my opponent played something different, but the move I had to consider ahead of time and make sure I could survive was this move, rook h7. And this is quite dangerous. You see the bishop and the rook are coordinating on the h2 square, so that can go with check. And if I retreat my queen, this knight is hanging. So, although I could retreat it to this square here and defend it. But this definitely would have been dangerous. And even, yeah, queen here, he could pin the knight too and then win it. So not an easy position. I had to make sure I had a move here. And so what is the saving move for white? This is your third quiz. Okay, I'm going to give away the answer. The saving move is this move, knight e7 check, forking, as we said before, the king and the queen. And he's forced to take it if he doesn't want to give up his queen. And then I can grab this rook. And so I've won the exchange. And let's see. And I have, so the material balance is 2 rooks against a rook and 2 bishops, which is a slight edge for black. But I have these queenside pawns, and I still have attacking ideas. These kingside pawns, and I still have attacking ideas on the king side. So this is still good for me. Computer suggests rook g7, and then queen takes e6 check. I do have to worry about these. There was this immediate mate threat here after rook g7. So this queen e6 check deflects the queen, saves myself from getting mated. And so 2 rooks against a rook and 2 bishop, but again with these extra pawns on the king side, this should be winning for white. But that would have been black's best defense. My opponent tried something else. So to get rid of this mate threat, he played the move rook takes. This is the main line. Rook takes g6. Okay. So after this, I can just take back right away, and so I win the exchange. This king is in check, goes to f8, and then I play the move rook h3 here, which I think is very logical, trying to get another piece into the attack. The computer likes the move rook takes e6 here, which is pretty interesting to look at, so I thought I would just show you this variation. After this, it says the best defense is bishop f4, bringing the bishop in to guard some squares around the king here, slow down the attack. And then it gives this great move for white here, rook g3. I don't know if I would have found this one. So the first thing you have to ask is, why not just bishop takes rook? And it turns out that after bishop takes rook, queen here is like a mate in 3. So the king can't run this way. And if the king goes to this square, then rook here, check. King has no moves. Rook interposes, checkmate. Okay? So what else can he try after this check? The king can't move. He could try interposing with the rook. And then you have this check here. And if the king comes up this way, then queen here is checkmate. So that doesn't work. Queen here, check. What else could he try? I guess the only other try is this move here. And what is it? I'm not saying the mate. Ah, yes, just queen back here is mate. Okay. I lost it for a minute there. Yeah, so it's mate in all variations there. So if we look at this, he can't, in this point, he can't take that rook. So the computer gives the line queen takes here, and now queen takes, and now bishop takes, and pawn takes. And so white has a queen against a rook and a bishop, which is an advantage, and white has the extra pawns. So that should be winning for white once again. So very, very interesting computer line after the move rook takes e6. So I didn't play rook takes e6. I thought I had a winning line, and actually this is also a winning move too. Rook to h3. It just is interesting, these lines the computer can find. So this is the actual main line. Rook to h3, and he tries to run away with his king. I play rook h7, threatening to just win that knight. Win that rook. So he trades, I take, and now I can sort of triangulate and move in on his king. The king is in check, and he's got to defend this bishop. So the king goes there to d8, and I check, and the king comes back to e7. I check again, the king goes back to d8. Now I check from f8, and now the king goes up to e7. So I'm just getting closer and closer so I can get to this square f7 check, and the king went here. And now I can take on e6. The computer actually recommends this move here, king to c8, as a way to survive the longest. So after king c8, it would be queen takes e6 check. Queen takes, rook takes e6. And once again, we end one of those endgames of rook against two bishops. But with all these pawns on the king side, should be an easy win for white. So you can see why king c8 is not that attractive. My opponent played king d8. But now this move allows this check here. No, not a check. But I take that pawn, and I'm threatening to checkmate. Rook takes, rook to d8 there would be mate. So after rook takes e6, now he runs away to c8. And I go queen to f8 check. I want to make sure I have room here for the rook to come in. If I go to d8 check, he can or e8 check, he can interpose the bishop, and then I'm in a little bit of trouble finding a move at that point. But after this check, let's see, if the king runs away, it's mate like this. So he plays bishop to d8. And now I play the move rook d6, and I think this is pretty crushing. I'm threatening to just win that bishop with the queen and mate. And I'm also threatening his queen at the same time. He goes in, takes the rook, but I just take back. And with the queen against the two bishops, he decides to resign at this point, and that's how the game ended. So that was 4 wins in a row for me, and I went on in the next 2 rounds, rounds 5 and 6. I was pretty tired, so I drew the last 2 games. I ended with a score of 5 out of 6, and actually I won the Class A championship for the state of California in 2011. So I was that 2011 Class A state champion for 1 year. There was only one other person with a score of 5 points, and he was actually someone I played in the first round and defeated. So because he had that first round loss, and he then won 5 games in a row, which is pretty tremendous. But he was facing weaker opposition, which is how it works in a Swiss system after that first round loss. So I won the title on tie breaks. So that's my story and then my over-the-board game for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.